in the morning between 9 and 11. 92.7 Nuga Radio.
Sharp, opinionated, thought-provoking, clutch with Keon Rose.
Hello, and welcome to the Clutch with Keon Rose. This is Nick Leffew filling in for Keon tonight. And I have a special guest to start tonight with Thomas Duggins, a friend of mine who has season tickets with me. We're going to talk a little bit about the spring game that took place in Knoxville on Saturday. How are you doing, Thomas?
I'm just dandy. It's a great Monday. You know,
it is a good Monday.
It's a new week. And,
it's raining cats and dogs here in Chattanooga. How's it in Atlanta right now?
It was doing that about an hour and a half ago, and it's just been gray pretty much since. I don't know. I actually think the sun's starting to come out a little bit, but, you know, it's night, so I can't really tell that much.
I will say this. The best thing about that spring game Saturday might have been the weather. It was a beautiful day in Knoxville Saturday. First off, kind of what's your takeaway from spring practice at all? Those 15 practices. I know you say you didn't get to catch a ton of the spring game, but spring practice all over itself. What were your takeaways?
Well, first of all, wasn't a ton of information that came out. It's just as far as from what you can get from the news, as far as just like players doing stuff. You know, they didn't really start reporting on that stuff for the last couple of weeks. But just from what I've read and, you know, what I could see of the game, you know, it's a new coach. You got new systems on both sides, and you know, Saturday kind of showed a little bit of that. I mean, I try to be even keeled, and I probably border on more optimistic than most. I mean, Saturday, I'm not going to get too high or low based on what I saw out there. As far as, you know, the defense didn't look that great. The offense, you know, the fact that the offensive line was kind of not bad against them when they should have been. Probably wasn't concerning, but, you know.
Yeah, I mean, the offensive line, like you said, they're missing.
The report said that the defense, for what I could tell, at least, the defense was kind of having their way with the line. So, I don't know. It could have just been a bad day Saturday for the D-line.
It definitely could have been. I think you're right about the changing of the systems. You're not just changing some basic lingo and stuff like that. You're literally changing from a 4-2-5 defense to a 3-4 defense. And you're changing from a spread offense to a pro offense. And I think those are huge things that you have to do. There's a lot of things you have to do with that to make the change. And I don't think you're going to see anything real hugely positive after just 15 practices. I think the biggest thing that we can take away from everything is there's a long way to go. Thank goodness there's 20 something practices in the fall before, you know, you go to Charlotte and play West Virginia game 1. I mean, what? I don't know if you saw the stats in a spring game. Can't really tell you a whole lot, but Jarrett Garantano looked pretty good at quarterback. You know, he was making some good throws. He had a couple of drops, 2 touchdowns, and the biggest thing for him, he didn't throw any interceptions. What's kind of what you've heard about Jarrett? What do you feel about Jarrett right now?
I mean, for what I saw Saturday and what I read, heard, you know, however you want to call it, you know, I think he took the steps necessary to make sure he's, I would say, 1A for the QB battle going into the summer here with Keller Chris transferring in.
And that's right, Keller Chris coming from Stanford as a grad transfer.
The weight room was good. He definitely needed it, especially if even if the O-line's marginally better this year than they were last year, Jarrett's still going to get beat up just based on what we saw last year. So he definitely needs the weight, if nothing else.
I'll say
we've always had the arm talent. You know, we know he can throw the ball hard, and we know he can throw it a long way. You know, some of those passes Saturday, he had a little bit more touch on him, which was nice to see. Like you said, didn't throw the pick.
Yeah, he wasn't throwing it 100 miles an hour on every throw.
Holding the ball that long, which, you know, that could be an effect of the fact that they were playing touch football out there, or touch with QBs out there. So who knows how that goes when he's faced with D linemen barreling down and, you know, trying to put him in the ground. But he looked a lot more confident than he did at any point last year when we had a running backs coach from Utah State coaching our QB.
Yeah, that's you know, Butch Jones' friends coaching, right? Not necessarily coaches, just friends. Gico Canales, who he's referring to as the quarterback's coach. To kind of stay with the quarterback for just a second. I think the biggest thing that you can see is that at least Jarrett is not lost in this new offense. It looked like he was picking it up pretty quickly. So that at least,
because it's probably an actually, I'd like to think it's an offense that actually kind of makes some sense from a, trying to score point standpoint. They actually try to pass the ball over the middle of the field sometimes, as opposed to
vertical passing too,
where 80% of the throws are to the sidelines and 80% of the throws would be to like tight ends on the sidelines, and you'd have no clue why they were doing that because it's not an effective way to move the ball.
Well, I think I think the best thing that Jarrett's doing is being the fact that he is looking like he's understanding the offense is the fact that you're going to be able to see him compete with Keller Christ. It's not going to be just Keller Christ coming in and taking the job. You're going to be able to see those two compete in the fall to who's going to win the job. Obviously, Will McBride is not there. And JT Shrout not coming in early is going to hurt his chances of having any shot, obviously. So I think Keller and JG are 1A and 1B, and Jarrett made a strong statement of this spring, I think, and making it his job to lose too.
Right. And now to say, Jarrett by no means locked it up. He looked good on Saturday, but it was against, vanilla defense. To kind of circle back to the defense had a bad day thing, I guarantee what we saw from the defense Saturday was way more vanilla than what they had in the two close scrimmages. So
completely agree.
Who knows how Jarrett and the whole offense were reacting when the defense was scheming up a little more. They also had some players held out Saturday that we know are going to make that defense a lot different come summer and in the fall. You got two of your top four linebackers on the sideline Saturday that will be back. We know this.
Right.
God willing, Darren Kirkland doesn't,
well, him and
like
Batuli
with his health history, but
him and Batuli were both out, this week or during the spring game. Neither one of them played. So, that's a big loss for that defense to look, as many people said, was that defense was behind the offense, which is normally not the case in the spring. It's usually the other way around.
Right.
But I think a lot of that had to do with the fact that your two best linebackers weren't in practice that day. The last thing about kind of a long way to go, I think it's from a more of a mental aspect too, for this team, is Jeremy Pruitt said that he had guys quit in a spring game. Not even in a real game. In a spring game, they quit. You can't have guys quitting in a spring game, right? You have to have those guys competing. Yeah, you're down, but the game doesn't matter. Don't quit. Jeremy Pruitt's a football guy, right? So he knows if his guys are quitting or if they're playing hard. And they clearly quit on defense when they got down. How do you change a mentality like that? That's hard to change, right?
Oh, it's terrible to change. And the fact of the matter is, it's a very blunt evaluation, but it's believable. We've seen how the team has reacted down the stretch of the last two seasons. They completely folded. The mental toughness hasn't been there. We can, I have no doubt the coaching leadership was severely lacking the last 2 years, but it doesn't make up for the fact that, especially after a guy like Josh Dobbs leaves, there was no player accountability last year. You can tell. You had guys that were trying hard, but there was no one that commanded the respect of the team enough to pull them all in one direction. And even with Dobbs 2 years ago, that wasn't enough against South Carolina and Vandy. You had guys completely laying down against both of them, especially on defense, which was inexplicable. It's a mentality change. It's this mentality change of the fact that the last 2 years you had a coach that was spent the whole time
worrying about what to say,
the fans, the media, whatever, about everything that was going good when in fact everything was terrible.
That's right. Butch was the kind of guy who cared more about what he said than what the products were on the field.
It's all about perception.
Yeah, and to him, perception was reality.
It's so funny because it's so ironic that he used that brick by brick phrase his first couple of years, because what ended up happening is his whole tenure was built on this just house of cards, for lack of a better term.
It was fake.
There was no foundation. After you had superstar players like Josh Dobbs, Calvin Kamara, and Derek Barnett leave, there was no one left to take their spot. Any healthy program has guys to replace them. And yes, those guys are tremendous players, tremendous guys. And, yes, you don't see them walking through the door And no, I'm not expecting them to be able to find the NFL Rookie of the Year every year, but at the same time, like the drop off was just, it was off a cliff, which UT should never be in this situation. And I mean, it's the problem we've had for a decade now is we've had some elite players, but every time one goes, we have nothing behind. Nothing. I mean, you want to go back to the end of Dooley's tenure, you had DeRick, Cordero, and Justin Hunter all leave or graduate or get tossed off the team after 2012. And then our wide receiver group left over for Butch in 2013 was garbage, for lack of a better term. I mean, God bless those guys. I appreciate all they contributed to the team and all that stuff. But, like, I remember being at spring practice that year, watching it, and, like, you look at those guys, like, these guys are not SEC players. And it's inexcusable in a place like Tennessee.
Yeah, you have the highest recruiting budget in the country.
You got the biggest recruiting budget in the nation. The cover should never be bare. Should never. I mean, it's the same problem with Butch. We know he padded his classes with guys who either didn't fit or were overrated or had injury histories. And unfortunately, we're dealing with a roster where right now you probably have 50% of the roster that is functional like SEC body.
Yeah, I would agree with you 100% on that. I think the fact that Butch Jones cared more about, again, his perception in recruiting. He went after stars and not after guys who would fit his style, whatever it was. His system that he called infallible, that never worked. And he went after guys that were stars. He went after guys like Jalen Hurd, who missed their whole senior season due to injuries because people started passing up on them because they were hurt. And that's what Butch Jones went after. I do want to say this, though. I do want to talk about a couple of positives from Saturday instead of just being completely negative. Crowd of over 65,000 people after a team that went 4-8 and had probably the most disastrous coaching search in coaching search history. 65,000 people there. I mean, that's impressive. That's the third highest crowd in orange and white game history behind it was 1987, or 86 or 87 spring game.
86 at the Sugar Bowl.
Yeah, and then
the
2013. I'm not
going to pretend like I was alive.
And then the 2013.
After the Sugar Bowls.
And then the 2013 was the one right after that, Butch's first year. Butch's first year. I mean, that was impressive, although I do find it kind of funny that the number, and I think I saw you say something about this on Twitter, but the crowd number was 65,098. Which is 65 is Phil Fulmer's old number, the athletic director.
Big number.
And 98, the year that Tennessee won their last national championship. Find that kind of ironic that that's the number they went with, especially when you don't count tickets at a free game.
Right.
But that's interesting. But it definitely looked like there was
65,000 there. Although I do fully believe there was probably 55 there, which is a great crowd.
Yeah, anything
for a team coming off a 4-8 season.
Anything over 40 is outstanding. For us,
the fact that they have more than 30 is a testament to how much this fan base cares. Probably too much. Sorry.
Now about the crowd, there was one negative. Apparently, Jeremy Pruitt with his comments, people did not like those. People want to talk about how real he is and how passionate he is, and yet when he criticized, for lack of a better term, because I don't think it was really a criticism, talks about the fan base. And everybody goes up in arms because the fan base is fragile and doesn't want to be called out.
Right.
I don't understand the upset part of this. I don't know if you have an opinion on this, but to me, I think the comments were nothing more than just kind of a blip in the radar, and people are blowing it way out of proportion. I mean, what do you think about them?
Oh, I think it was blown way out of proportion. I mean, he said what he said and he meant what he said, but at the same time, like you said, the reason why people say they like Jeremy Pruitt is because he's not full of cliches. He's not saying stuff just to say things. He says stuff that he means. And if he doesn't want to say something, he doesn't say it. Like, you look at it, like, you watch the way he answers questions, he's just very monitored, or he's very controlled with what he says. Like, and so to kind of circle back to Saturday, he was very frustrated after the game. You could tell.
Very visibly frustrated
with the defensive performance, and so I probably carried over a little bit to the fact that he looks up from the fans, and it's in the average person's mind, and not the average, but in a logical person's mind, to see that lower bowl full for what that team is right now, that's a good turnout.
It's impressive. And you had people in the upper deck, too. It's not like they were just in the lower bowl. I mean, there were some in the upper deck.
But when you got Pruitt, who's coming from elite programs, Alabama, Florida State,
Georgia,
top 5 programs of the last decade. Jimbo Fisher and Nick Saban, top 5 coaches of the last.
Mark Richt too, when he was at Georgia,
and Mark Richt, top 5 coach of the last decade. Even though Mark Richt and Jeremy Pruitt weren't really gelling when they were at UGA,
right?
He had. You even want to talk back to high school. He coached at Hoover, which they won titles. This guy wins. He knows what the championship mindset is. He knows
and talked about asparagus.
What the players' effort is. He knows what the fan passion effort looks like. And he said he was he enjoyed the heck out of the ball walk there. Going in and seeing all that, which it's hard not to when you see that sea of orange when you're coming down there. But at the same time, he's like, well, you guys told me you want to be elite. He told us.
Well, and I remember back to his,
and he's going he works at Georgia, and granted, Georgia's it was last year where they had Ludacris come, which was a gimmick, but they got 95 guys with 95,000 people in that stadium that holds 92,000. And I'm not saying go gimmicky, but at the same time, he sees that and he goes, okay, they say they want to be elite. This is what the elite guys are doing right now.
And if you go back to his opening press conference, he said his expectations are going to be higher than ours as a fan base. And I think if you look at that, his expectation for the spring game was there to be 102,455 people there. That was his expectation because that's elite. That helps recruiting. If I even think the amount of people we had there this week helped recruiting, but
yeah, it absolutely did. But
he wants to be elite.
And I think I don't want to say he's narrow-minded, but I think he's very focused. I think he intentionally operates in a very close bubble around himself. Yeah. And when I say that, what I mean is, I think for him, I don't want to say it doesn't register, but I don't think he cares to be conscious about the last 10 years for Tennessee fans. He's going, look, I've seen championships. I've won championships. I've won
5,
position coach and defensive coordinator at 2 different schools. This is what goes into this. And we can piss and moan about everything that's happened the last 10 years, which there's a time. But at the end of the day,
well, you're not going to get any better if you focus on the past. And I think Jeremy Pruitt's ready to get over that and just move on. And I think
it's me with him.
And exactly. And I think the best thing is he is a lot like the guy that's his boss. He's a lot like Philip Fulmer. He doesn't care about the media and what the media is going to say. That's not his important. He doesn't care about that. He wants to win. He's here to win football games. He's not here to talk to the media. And I
will say Phil had a better way with the media, but
I think Pruitt will learn that though. He's never had to talk to the media.
People would say the end of Phil's tenure was he kind of got, I'll say lackadaisical, but he didn't have as much intensity when it came to recruiting, when it came to making sure his assistants were on the same page.
Yeah,
and that's not what you're getting with Pruitt right now. Pruitt came in, he had pretty much his whole staff lined up because these are guys that A, wanted to coach them, and B, these guys he has confidence in.
So last thing I really want to talk about with you is about the offense. And I alluded to it a little bit earlier when I talked about how the changing from a spread style offense to a pro style offense. There were a lot of positive things to see there. They ran under center a lot, and I think that's good to see. You're going to see a lot of tight end. I think in this passing game, which is going to allow those receivers to go downfield for a vertical passing game. And a thing that makes me really happy, we saw a fullback. You saw Austin Pope and Jaquan Blakely line up at fullback during the spring game, especially inside the 10-yard line. There were no shotgun snaps inside the 10-yard line. Thank goodness.
No shotgun snaps from the 2.
Yeah, so, I love a pro-style offense, especially in the SEC. It just makes sense. What do you think? Do you think we're gonna see a lot of? I think you'll see shotgun because Tyson Helton loves to be able to throw the football, but I think he's going to be able to do both.
But I think if shotgun fits their personnel, they'll run out of that a lot. I mean, Helton ran. I think I'm just drawing off the stat that I read somewhere, but Sam Darnold took more shotgun snaps than Lamar Jackson this past year. So what I'm saying is, I think they'll, instead of Sam Darnold at USC where Helton was, I think they'll cater to the talent they have.
Yeah.
Now I do think the foundation of this offense is going to be pro style. It's going to be single backs. It's going to be I formation. It's going to be 2 tight ends. But I think if they got the guys to go high powered up tempo, they'll do.
All right. Well, Thomas,
thank you. Don't have
thank you so much for joining me tonight, and thank you again for helping me talk about some Tennessee football. We'll be right back, and we're going to talk about the NHL playoffs along with the NBA playoffs and maybe some more spring football. Come back to 92.7 FM Noogie Radio for The Clutch with Keon Rose, with Nick Leffew filling in tonight.
3, 2, 1. Chattanooga Radio. Digital FM 95.3 HD4. 92.7 FM's news now.
The pilot of the plane that crashed at the Collegedale Municipal Airport has been named. 63-year-old Robert Gillisee of Ottawa was killed when his 2-seater ultralight crashed. An FAA spokesperson says the amateur-built aircraft veered off the right side of the runway and onto the grass after landing at Collegedale Municipal Airport over the weekend. The FAA and NTSB are investigating. A motorcyclist was gravely wounded after a crash in Ottawa over the weekend. It happened on Ottawa-Ringgold Road and Lee Highway when the motorcycle and another vehicle collided. The cyclist rushed to the hospital. Chattanooga liquor stores were open for the first time on a Sunday. Yesterday, Governor Bill Haslam signed the bill allowing the stores to stay open just before the weekend. The bill passed easily through both the House and the Senate. Val St. John for Nooga Radio, News Talk 92.7, Action News Now.
Traffic, news, and information. Nooga Radio. Digital FM 95.3 HD4 and 92.7 FM. Chattanooga weather.
Lingering showers will continue through your nighttime for a while. Overnight lows settling into the mid-50s. For Tuesday, mostly cloudy. A few spotty showers passing through, but not as wet. Highs of around 70 with some lingering clouds and a little drier weather for Wednesday and Thursday. Let Glass Farm Nursery beautify your lawn and garden with a big assortment of tropicals, perennials, and annuals. Open daily, closed Sundays. That's Glass Farm Nursery, Highway 11, 4 miles south of Trenton. And I'm Sworn D12, Chief Meteorologist, Manager 4.
Nooga Radio 92.7. Chattanooga Morning News with Russ and Val. Weekdays from 6 to 9 a.m. on Nooga Radio 92.7 FM. Broadcasting live to over 1 million souls in Chattanooga, the Tennessee Valley, and beyond on frequency modulation 92.7. Sean Hannity, 25,000 watts on digital FM 95.3 HD4. CBS Radio News, NASCAR, Bloomberg Markets, David Tulis, streaming strong at NoogaRadio.com. Live on YouTube and Facebook. Nooga Radio, News Talk 92.7. Chattanooga Radio.
I'm a gun enthusiast. I got my first .22 when I was 8. I hunt, shoot for sport, and sometimes blow off a little steam at the range. That's why I go to Shooter Supply. They have all my ammo and accessories. And if I find that next just gotta have it, I get that baby 12 months same as cash and 20% off on range membership. Big box stores can't do that. Shooter Supply can. Just look for the A-frame on Hickson Pike at 153. Shooter Supply. Buy there, shoot there.
Hey guys, do you need a mini man break? We know how busy you are, but don't let your hairstyle suffer. Come see the stylist at Sport Clips at Hamilton Place and let them treat you to the MVP experience. A precision haircut, legendary hot steam towel, massaging shampoo, and relaxing neck and shoulder treatment, all while watching your favorite sports. No appointment needed. Sport Clips at Hamilton Place, located in front of Home Depot.
Cash, 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 and more. No, gold, 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 and more gold. Rick's got the gold, gold, gold. Don't miss out. Tired of bank rates as low as 1%? What? Then you need to go to Rick Davis Gold and Diamonds. That's right. Rick guarantees profit. Get your Gold American Eagle certified by the federal government and get 8.1% profit. Guaranteed. Rick Davis, 5301 Brainerd Road. Rick Davis, Chattanooga. Gold, 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 and more gold.
Mom's furniture, her boxes of paperback romances, Mom's estate. Oh, call Dan. Dan will help you get on with your life. Let Dan clear the old house. Take care of everything. He'll hand you a nice check. 314-4034. Dan the Cleanup Man. 314-4034. In this moment, who has your back? Do you know the name of your insurance agent? Does your agent know your name? Or would you call a 1-800 number that connects you with whom? Another state? Another country? Get a local independent insurance agent with Auto Owners Insurance. Someone you can call when bad stuff happens. In this moment, get an agent who will protect you in that moment. Let Goss Insurance in Chattanooga help you today. GossInsurance.wordpress.com. Goss, representing Auto Owners Insurance, the no problem people. GossInsurance.com. Goss. GossInsurance.com. Representing Auto Owners Insurance, the no problem people. 875-2500. 875-2500. Want a business phone system that gives you Outlook integration, Salesforce integration, smartphone integration? Why desk sets and expensive lines? Turn smartphones into a cohesive business system. Call Signal 619-1200. Signal Voice and Data 619-1200.
Nuga Radio, digital FM 95.3 HD4 and 92.7 FM knows your opinion is important. So call 800-8949. Agree or disagree? Call 423-800-8949. 800-8949. Nuga Radio, 92.7 FM and 95.3 HD4. News Talk Nuga Radio.
Sharp, opinionated, thought-provoking. Clutch with Keon Rose.
Welcome back to the Clutch with Keon Rose. This is Nick Leffew filling in for the evening. And I have a special guest joining me again in this segment, Hayden Clark, head coach of the Chattanooga Eagles, and he told me he wanted to talk a little bit of Alabama spring game, a little bit of quarterback situation. Hayden, how you doing this evening?
How you guys doing, man? Thanks for having me, Nick.
Yeah, of course, man. What's on your mind?
Man, I just wanted to talk a little bit about all this, the Blake, or not Blake Sims.
Wrong
you know
quarterback.
who I'm talking about.
Jalen Hurts?
Jalen Hurts talking about being the best free agent to ever come through college football.
Right.
And everybody, wants to talk about it, and his dad's getting involved and all that good stuff. I just want to know, other than playing for Alabama, what has he proven?
That's a good question. I mean, I'm right there with you. He's obviously not the best thrower of the football on that roster. Tua, for lack of a better, me being able to say his last name, is clearly a better thrower of the football, and it showed in the national championship. I don't know. Other than Jalen Hurts winning at Alabama, I don't know what he has to offer to the table.
Exactly. And, I'm not an Alabama fan, but I'm a football fan. So, I love Jalen Hurts. I really do as a person. I love Jalen Hurts. I love what he stands for. I love the fact that in the national championship game, when he did get benched, he didn't go over there and pout. He just stepped up and supported the next guy up to win. And then, we're coming up on this off season now, and we start hearing about transferring if he doesn't win the job and all that good stuff. And then I don't know if you even saw the latest news today, something about Nick Saban having something leaked on an open mic about trashing the quarterback during some type of practice.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on down in Alabama. Obviously, they're fine, and they're going to be fine. It all depends to me on Tua's health and how serious this actual thumb injury is. I don't think it's very serious. But you at some point you have to think that if Jalen Hurts isn't going to play, which I don't think he's going to, he needs to transfer for himself. I mean, do you agree?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I agree. At the end of the day, you always have to watch out for yourself. But I mean, then again, man, if you're packing this foundation and talking about how you're always going to support that team, and then things get tough in spring practice, and you're already talking about transferring, I just think it's a little bit wishy-washy there.
Well, you can play devil's advocate.
You got to do what's best for himself. So
yeah, I mean, you can play devil's advocate there and say, well, it may not be giving up on the team, other than the fact that he knows that he can go probably most any other place and compete, if not get the starting job. just from name alone, that's going to help.
That's just like we talk about all these teams, especially in the SEC right now. There's not really a lot of great quarterbacks out there, so I think Jalen Hurts could walk in and probably over half of the SEC schools right now, especially in the East.
He'd start in Tennessee and Florida both. He'd start at Tennessee and Florida both.
Oh, 100%, hands down. And then that, the Florida spring game's a whole different topic, and I don't have enough time to talk about that. But, I mean, it's just it's very weird / interesting for me to see Alabama have this type of controversy, because you never hear this type of stuff. You got the mics being leaked of him saying something bad. You got the daddy ball now getting involved.
You want me to tell you something? You know what it is? It's
Go right ahead.
It's the Butch Jones effect.
The Butch Jones effect?
Yeah, Butch Jones is a program killer. Wherever he goes, even if he's not on the field, he's going to cause problems. Whatever Nick Saban was thinking, bringing that man to be a part of that program, other than the fact that it's probably just a favor to both of their agents, because they have the same one. Hint, hint. That's the reason he probably has that job right now, making $35,000 to watch film. I would take that job in a heartbeat, by the way. I mean, is he just bad luck? Could Butch Jones just be bad luck?
I don't know, man. I'm not a big believer in luck, but I mean, I definitely think it speaks volumes. I mean, you're coming from a program that just comes off of a national championship, but then again, you know what I question more so? Obviously, Tennessee fans want to talk about Butch, but let's talk about some character issues, man.
Yeah.
You got all these. You got that one guy going off. What was it? Was it the national championship game?
Yeah, it was the national championship game where he was throwing punches at a coach.
Yeah, throwing punches at the coach. And then you got Reuben Foster this year getting in trouble. And then you see all those, all the comments about that. How do you go in a year and a half get in trouble 5 or 6 times and never not one time in Alabama?
Well, a lot of that has to be said with, and this is whether it's positive or negative or whatever, Nick Saban has that town in the palm of his hand. Tuscaloosa, I don't know how many folks have been to Tuscaloosa. Tuscaloosa is not a very large town. It is a college town. Whoever the head coach of Alabama is, if they have any success, they will run that town. And whatever they want done will be done. And that's kind of what's happened with Nick Saban.
Yeah, I agree with you. But, all right, man. I guess more of the story is just saying, hey, dads out there listening, stay out of college boys' life.
You mean you don't want any more LeVar Balls out there?
I would rather not have it in the game of football.
Yeah.
Keep that on the basketball side.
I'd rather it even just stay out of basketball. I just need to stay out of sports in general. All right.
All right, Nick. You have a good night, man. Y'all be careful.
Thanks, Hayden.
Man.
All right, well, that was Hayden Clark, head coach of the Chattanooga Eagles. He just wanted to talk a little bit about some Alabama issues, and I want to kind of go off of my point. As a Tennessee fan and a Tennessee alum, I completely think it's Butch Jones' fault. I will stand by that. That man does not know football. That man only cares about his self-image, and day one at practice, he walks out on the field, and Tua gets hurt. I don't think it's a coincidence. I think it's completely connected. Call me a conspiracy theorist, but I think Tennessee sent Butch Jones there to put the downfall of Alabama. Now, I'm gonna go back to the Tennessee spring game for just 1 second before we move on to some other sports. I kind of just wanted to close out my thoughts a little bit on the team. If you look at it from just a schematic standpoint and a coaching standpoint, these guys are for once in their life at Tennessee getting coached. Okay. Butch Jones did not care about the coaching aspect of that. All he wanted you to do was to toe the company line and say nothing but positive things about the University of Tennessee and that football program. That football program did not have a workout program. In the last 2 years of Butch Jones being there, the players ran the workout program. If they did not want to work out, they did not have to work out. There's a reason why there were injuries galore on that Tennessee. It was not bad luck, like Butch Jones said, and how there was the worst injuries he's ever seen. It was because the players did not work out. They did not hit the weight room. You cannot be successful in the SEC if you are not in the weight room. It's plain and simple. You look at those players, they are undersized. and they are slow. And I think you saw some growth there Saturday and through spring practice, through those 15 practices. They've been in the weight room since he got there, and that's going to continue in the summer and when those new guys get there. But the culture's got to change, and that's what Jeremy Pruitt, I think, can do more than anything. I don't know if he's going to be successful. I don't. I hope so. I like Jeremy Pruitt. He's a Southern guy. He's down to earth. Grew up in Northern Alabama. He understands the SEC. I know he went to Alabama, and some Tennessee fans don't like that. That's fine. But he does understand the SEC, and he understands what it takes to win at a very high level. And whether or not he wins the national championship, I do think he's at least going to put a product on the field that Tennessee fans can be proud of, to the extent that the players are going to get better. I hope he can continue to recruit as a head coach like he did as an assistant. So, we'll see. We'll see. Time will only tell for Jeremy Pruitt and what he can do. But it's going to be, I think it's going to be a fun fall on Rocky Top. I think you're not going to see a lot of wins. I'm thinking 6-7 is a great season. If you can pull out 7 out of that schedule, you've done some good things. 6 wins, get to a bowl game, get those extra practices is huge. So look for Tennessee to try to get bowl eligible. I think that's their goal. They won't say that their goal is to win every game, but I think in their heart of hearts they understand they got to get to that bowl eligibility. So I promised that we would move away from Tennessee football. As much as it hurts me, we'll move on. I'll talk a little bit about the Nashville Predators, and they closed out their series last night in a 5-0 victory on the road in Denver. I don't know how many people follow hockey or anything like that. That's a big thing to do in Denver. Colorado does not lose there. Nashville won 2 of the 3 games there, and that's huge. And I think what you see from this Nashville Predators team, there's a lot of people out there, and we'll get to a couple of those folks in Denver in a minute, who think that this Nashville team's not for real. If you're not for real, you don't, after you lose a game at home 2-1 in the fashion they did, if you're not a contender, you don't beat that same team in their building 5-0. Plain and simple, you don't. And the Preds did a great job, I thought, coming out and laying the first punch. They scored 2 or 3 goals in the first period. I think it was 2 in the first, and then an early third goal in the second. And it was what you wanted to see if you were a Predators fan. That's what you wanted to see. You have Winnipeg sitting there waiting for you. You don't want to go to a game 7 and have another game and then go right into that series. Now you get to wait on these 2 games tonight, and if one of those teams, either Toronto or Columbus, wins that game, you prolong the second round for a little bit longer, so you can go into a little bit of a rest and get some practice and work on special teams, especially, which the Predators need to work on that power play. I think teams are starting to realize they're dropping the puck when they try to advance, and so you got to make some changes there. And Peter Laviolette's a great coach, and he's going to be able to make those adjustments and go forward. I'm interested to see this Winnipeg series, though, to kind of preview that a little bit. That team is really good and really young. They're anchored by a great defenseman in Dustin Byfuglien, who's played forward, played defense. He's played a little bit of everything in his career, and he is a tough grinder type player, and he does not care to take penalties. He is going to be in your face, and he's going to try to get into it with you. I think seeing him and PK Subban on the ice at the same time is going to be fun, because those two play very similar games. PK's a little bit less animated about it than Dustin is, but I think those two are going to be a blast to watch on the ice at the same time, even though they won't tangle up too much because they're both defensemen. It should be very interesting to see those two on the ice at the same time and stick up for their teammates against each other. They're both very, very good defensemen. I said I was going to talk a little bit about some of the quote-unquote journalists in Denver. There is a gentleman named Mark Kisla, who is a columnist for the Denver Post, okay? This man is an absolute dullard. He's a moron, and all he wanted to do was badmouth the Predators fan base from day one, game one, and he All he wanted to do was get clickbait. This man's tweets. I'm just gonna look at them and go through them with you. This man, all he did was call out Smashville and call the fans classless for the chant that Nashville has done for at least 10 to 15 years. When a goal is scored, calling out the goalie. Okay. Called that out. Said it was classless and immature. This man also decided that it would be great to tweet at Nashville fans and keep the professionalism really high. You know, he's very professional and he has no opinions. But I don't understand as a journalist what you have to gain to call out another fan base. You know, here's one of them. He wrote a column last night. Nathan McKinnon and Avs exposed Nashville as the pretenders they are. The only way the Avs star McKinnon, and that's Nathan McKinnon, the center or the winger for the first line winger for the he is the center, the first line center for the Colorado Avalanche. He said the only way that could happen is if defenseman PK Subban slugs him across the face. Okay, that's fine if he wants to say that, but can we talk about for just a second the fact that last night alone, Gabriel Landeskog, one of the most dirty players in the NHL, I'll say it, he toes the line of penalties on every check he makes. He will board you, he will charge you, and he will cross-check you every time he hits you. And you can't as a journalist, you can't call out one team for the same things that same team does. And so I just don't understand what he's trying to do, and other than just get clickbait and try to get people in Nashville to read his article from all the way out in Denver. That has to be his only goal, right? So I'm not really sure what Mark's doing there, but apparently there has been a big ado with the two fan bases, and I just don't get it. You know, I'm a big Preds fan. I've been a Preds fan since day one. You know, I love them. I love hockey, and it's great to see hockey succeed in the South. To call our fans classless, it really irks me. And not to mention, I'm going to go back on how unprofessional this is from Mark with the fact that you look at a defenseman in Zadorov, who's a great player, but also dirty, takes Victor Arvidsson's head off with a cross-check, no penalty called. He does end up getting a 10-minute misconduct penalty throughout early in that game in the second period. But still, you know, it's clearly dirty hockey, and that happens in the playoffs when you see somebody every other day for multiple weeks. That's what happens. You know, it does get heated, and the teams know each other, and they start to really hate each other. But that's what makes hockey great in itself. I want to move on a little bit more of the NHL. Tonight, like I said, there's 2 Game 6s tonight between Toronto and Boston and Washington and Columbus. Now, if you would have told me that Keon Rose's Washington Capitals, after being down 2-0, losing the first 2 in their building, would go back to Columbus, Ohio, and take 2 from them, that blows my mind. And then win 1 at home to make it 3-2. It's interesting to see if Columbus and Sergei Bobrovsky, the goaltender, can rebound tonight and push it to a Game 7. Toronto and Boston. I thought Boston was going to run away with that. I think I picked Boston to go to the Stanley Cup Finals against the Predators. A little biased there, but I feel like Boston is a great hockey team. I feel like they're playing a little bit like the Predators and didn't have that fire that they needed. And it'll be interesting to see if they can close it out tonight on the road and see what Toronto can bring. And it's been amazing to me without Kadri how they've been able to do after he got suspended in Game 1. Last little bit of things here. I don't want to stick on the NHL too long, but the NBA playoffs, they've been fun. Obviously, you know, the Sixers starting to do what everybody thought they would do to the Heat. Now, especially with Joel Embiid back. So I don't think you have anything to worry about if you're a Sixers fan. When it comes to that, I think the Sixers, especially if Cleveland can continue their collapse against Indiana, I don't know if there's anybody in the Eastern Conference that can knock out Philadelphia. I think it's been very interesting. Go back to that Indiana and Cleveland series to see the Lance Stevenson and the LeBron James saga 2.0. It's really fun. It's really fun. It's great to see somebody be able to get into LeBron's head like Lance Stevenson can. Of course, then Lance decided to fight last night and after trying to get a jump ball. But it's always fun to see what player can get in a superstar's head. I mean, LeBron James is the greatest player in the world. And the fact that a guy like Lance Stevenson, a journeyman, great player, obviously nowhere near the caliber of a LeBron James, is able to do that. And it's awesome to me to see that. And I think, I think the NBA playoffs are going to be fun. Right now, I'm looking at the score right here. The Rockets are down 39-37 in the second quarter, about midway through it, to the Timberwolves. And that, if the Timberwolves win that game, they've tied that series. I wouldn't really thought that one going in there. Timberwolves are a good team, Jimmy Butler, but I thought the Rockets really had a good chance, but the Rockets will rocket in the playoffs and do what they do. I think the NBA playoffs are going to be fun to watch here at the end. You got another game tonight in Oklahoma City and Utah. Utah does lead that series 2-1, so that'll be fun to see as well if Oklahoma City can rebound on the road. Utah is a 4-point favorite though at home, which sounds about right. Give it or take. That's usually a push with the home there. So if you got money betting on that one, I would probably not bet. Yeah, I would just not bet on that game. But again, I think the NBA playoffs here at the end are going to be really great. Not as good as the NHL, though. I think the NHL has it. Well, thank you guys. Thank you guys for listening to me and ramble and talk about some Tennessee football and some NHL. This is Nick Leffew for Keon Rose on the Clutch, and I hope everyone has a great night.
Chattanooga Morning News with Russ and Val. Weekdays from 6 to 9 a.m. on Nooga Radio, 92.7 FM. 3, 2, 1. Chattanooga.